Okay, hello.
Hello,
We're
how are you?
hello. I'm good. I'm good. This is a crazy time of year, even when you don't have. I've talked about this on LinkedIn yesterday. Like, I'm seeing all the moms dealing with choir concerts and band concerts and end of year projects and buying gifts and making cookies and then also doing work. And it's really nice to be on the other side of it, but it still somehow feels like the crazy fills whatever space you have open for it.
It's so true. I don't think there's a time in December when I don't think of the date and just kind of instinctively panic. I don't know why. I still have a teenager at home, so there's a little bit of that. I don't miss, to your point, the booked schedule, but we still are responsible for making some magic this time of year, I think, as moms. I appreciated that post very much, actually. I mean to go back and
Thank you.
comment on it because it's like, oh, that's so real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So real.
It's rough. I
Mhm.
think it's September, like the back to school stuff, and then December with all the holiday stuff, and then May with all the end of school year stuff are 3 really, really rough months for parents in the workplace, for
Did
sure.
I ever tell you my Indiana Jones analogy?
No.
So, we used to say in our house from back to school, which is Labor Day, but now it's even 2 weeks before Labor Day in our neck of the woods sometimes, through the new year, feels like Indiana Jones out racing the boulder. Like, just keep running, just keep running. It's coming behind you and it's getting more momentum, and then you can fall flat January 7th.
Right, maybe.
Yeah, so we're still in it. We're still dodging a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. So I'm hitting you with a surprise. We have a topic that we're gonna talk about, but I wanted to quickly throw in a bit, just like a quick touch base on a news item, because I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't touch base on the TikTok ruling from this week, or the court upholding the decision about TikTok being banned as of January 19th,
Mhm.
unless it's sold.
Mhm.
So it's looking more likely that it could happen. We have clients asking us about it. We have, right before I hopped on this podcast, I had a client asking for a TikTok only campaign for Q1. So we have clients asking about it. We have clients just moving forward
Planning.
moving forward their planning. And I guess this is kudos to us, trusting in us that we'll be able
Yeah,
to pivot if need be, should it go
right.
away.
Yeah.
But just wondering how you're kind of counseling clients and colleagues on that, and what you think might happen and what your perspective is.
Sure. The same type of week for us in the sense of reaching out to clients, getting on calls on 2 fronts, actually. So, the 2 TikTok challenges that we are dealing with, one is the ban, and we're honestly in a wait and see holding pattern. And I want to ask you what that looks like for you guys, but nobody has any answers yet. The one, I think, salient data point that really hit home with me was that, and I might be getting this a little bit wrong, but only 13% of TikTok's ad revenue comes from the US. So take that for what it's worth. It sounds like that would be a reason to sell it. Like they're not going to risk the entire business portfolio worldwide for US. Like we're very US centric. Like, oh, how could this happen to us?
Yeah.
But the rest of the world is like, so what? We're going to carry on and do fine without the US. So again, I don't have any crystal ball around that, but it's something to keep in mind that as much as we're panicking or adjusting, it's just because we're in the US and we think everything revolves around us, but their ad revenue doesn't. Their sales revenue doesn't revolve around us.
Well, when they were banned in India, they didn't sell it. They just poof, it went away. They didn't even have the 9 months notice that we're getting. It was just there one day and gone
Yep.
the next.
Interesting.
TikTok historically has not really, to your point, if it's only 13%, they have said that they don't want to sell. To me, hearing that it's only 13% is reason for them not to sell and just be like, okay, forget you.
I see what you're saying, like
We'll just move
radical
on. Yeah,
Mhm.
right, like, we're not why would we bother selling something that would give away our trade secrets and take that out of our domain? We'll just grow elsewhere.
Right, right. The second TikTok issue is one that I loosely have been following on LinkedIn as well, which is around watermarking. And apparently they're rolling out a new feature that hit my awareness because it hit some creators' awareness, where when you create a video in the app, it offers you the option to publish immediately or save with a watermark. And if, there's sort of no option, and the watermark matters if you're using that, like SOWs sometimes will highlight and specify watermark from TikTok to other platforms. So now we're trying to work with clients on best practices because, as you can imagine, creators, influencers are really good at finding the end around to these things, but at what price? And does it affect performance? Does it affect the
So it
reach?
adds a TikTok watermark to the content? So I hadn't heard about this. So what's the big deal? So it
Well,
means someone else can't so it looks like it's owned by TikTok and not by
well,
the
right.
brand?
Watermarking for us in a particular campaign that we're doing, we're to negotiate deliverables with the influencers. We are okay with one video being posted in two places. So they're not creating fresh content,
Right.
depending, and again, this is very high level of our granular negotiations, but the qualification is it can't be watermarked. So it can't be a TikTok video that you're trying to put over on Instagram Reels.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So they'd have to create the video not inside of TikTok and then publish it to the 2 places um
Possibly. And again, this changes every day, and it may be creator, influencer to influencer. There's weight given to a natively created
yes,
video
I was just
in the
gonna say
TikTok
that.
app. Yeah.
Right, right.
So that's where we're like, there are end arounds. What's the long tail impact? And is that okay
Yeah,
versus the other options for it? So
right.
and actually, that seems more pertinent to us right now than the ban, quite honestly.
Oh,
Like
that's
that's more
interesting. That hasn't
granular.
come up for us yet. We don't do a ton of cross posting. Actually, we're doing a program now with cross posting, but that's not super common
Yeah.
for us.
Right. Right. I know. It's just this particular one. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
we just we have to it's great though. I mean, this is why I love our industry and I love what we do is because we are on that leading edge conversation and in touch with our influencers and they're giving us their feedback and we're talking to the clients about what's possible. That's exciting.
Yeah,
It's not always it's challenging, it's not always in our favor, but
yeah.
maybe I'm
And we
Pollyanna, but I
to
like it.
in regards to what you asked about how we're addressing, I mean, we're going through and we're planning it and we're saying, you want a TikTok program? Okay, you get a TikTok program. And if it turns out that, well, first of all, it's not going to go away completely. Like it's not going to disappear from people's phones. It's just going to stop being updated in the App Store. So I think that means that anything created in Q1 would still be okay
There's some
for any
runway.
yeah, there's some runway, and I think we'll just pivot. We pivot all the time. I think creators have been pretty smart because we have had all this notice. I'm seeing a lot of influencers have already started putting content onto multiple platforms and building up their audiences elsewhere.
Mhm.
So I think it'll be pretty easy to move stuff over from one place, move a program over from one platform to another, and it'll just be yet another exciting day
Well,
in
and I'm going to make
influencer
a plug.
marketing.
I'm going to make a plug here for creators and influencers to get savvy about owned channels. They're at the mercy of these types of things all the time, whether it's little algorithmic changes to sweeping.
Meta went down the other day for a little bit. I don't know if you were
Yes.
using it when it happened, but
Nope. And relatedly, didn't Chat GPT go down too? I
yes,
feel like it was like, what are you doing? So it could be that. It could be that Instagram, I remember, decided to clean out bots and suddenly and that's okay. I'm just saying you're at the mercy of somebody else flipping a switch. Whereas when you own the channel, a blog, Substack, Medium, podcast, I feel it. Yeah, I'm going to stop there. You get the point, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all part of the conversation, I think.
Okay,
So, and
that's a
I want to say, Danielle, I also think this relates to our last episode of agency fees. Because my mind now on your behalf is saying you're going to do all this work to plan a TikTok campaign in good faith. And if it doesn't happen, it's not as simple. I don't want anybody listening to think it's as simple as saying, let's just move that shit over to Instagram. It isn't. Your team will have to, because you're experts and professionals, you will be doing quite a bit of whatever you want to call it, like re-strategizing,
there's a lot that's
refocusing.
different. The paid amplification, it's using Facebook or Meta Ad Manager, whatever it's called, instead of TikTok Spark ads.
Hmm.
Everything is different.
Yeah,
We provide guarantees on all of our programs. Those numbers look different. People's followings look very different on Instagram
right,
versus TikTok. Yeah.
right. It's like Ginger Rogers, right? Backwards and in high heels, and you're making it look really easy for your clients, which is why they go to you. I just don't want anybody else to mask over this fact that your calm exterior right now is the face of an expert who knows how to navigate this. Enough, everybody gets it, but I just couldn't let it not be said, because that's why we
Thank you.
charge what we
Yeah,
charge, or that's why the fees
indeed.
come into play, because there's somebody at the wheel
Doing stuff.
shepherding this most of the time.
Okay, so that was our current events section of the day. So what
Yes.
we wanted to talk about today is something that has kind of caught the curiosity, something that struck both of us this week. It's been striking me a little bit over the last few weeks, but this week it kind of boiled up, and I actually brought it up in one of the Slack communities that I'm in with some other influencer marketing professionals, just to, because I kind of felt like, am I crazy? Am I crazy that this is bothering me? And then you and I were talking about it a bit too, and so we're going to bring it up here, and listeners can feel free to tell us that we are crazy or we're on track.
They get in line, get right in line to tell me I'm
And
crazy.
we touched base a little bit about this before, and we each have kind of like there's a different, I think we're both concerned about all the things, but we're each kind of coming at it from a different key concern. So the
Hmm.
issue is B2B influencers on LinkedIn, so business to business influencers on LinkedIn, promoting usually software products to their followers and connections on LinkedIn. We've seen a few of these campaigns recently, and I will let you cover the quality of the content. What strikes me as kind of strange, it makes more sense. These programs make more sense to me when the B2B influencers own their own business, are independent contractors, are consultants, are kind of like the emperors of their own domain. But I'm seeing that a lot of these B2B influencers work for someone else. And the software that they're talking about is paid for by the company that they work for.
Hmm.
And then the influencer, presumably is getting paid personally to promote that software to their followers. But right underneath their name, it says the name of the company that they work for. And the whole thing starts to get really fuzzy for me.
Hmm.
So I always look at this from the lens of someone who does own a company, and I do have people working for me. So the things, I'm just going to like be transparent about what I'm feeling about it. One, when we choose a software that we're going to use, it's usually a multi-month process of discussions and negotiations and vetting, and a lot goes into choosing a software partner. Certainly the people who work for us are the beneficiaries of that, or the people feeling frustrated by that choice if the software doesn't work well. But that was like a huge decision process that a lot of people were involved in. There's a lot of money changing hands. So let's say it's a software. I'm paying 6 figures a year to use this software. I took months to make this decision. We, as partners, decided this would be the software that our company is going to use. And then someone who works for us is contacted by them and decides to take a side hustle, posting something about their software. So these are the issues that raises for me are one, it makes me feel a little bit weird. Like everyone who follows this person is going to think, man, Sway Group must not pay them very well that they need to take on a side hustle. So that's my one petty thing that would occur to me.
Right.
But I can let that, listen, eggs are expensive, as we all know. Like, fine, side hustles, okay. So we can like cross that concern off the list. That's just like vanity. The second thing is, what if as a company we decide we don't want to use that software anymore? Or what if I want to renegotiate with that software company, but my
Huge.
employee just like gave them public kudos and took money from them? I'm paying all this money to that software company. Shouldn't I get some kind of kickback for someone who works for me and has my company's name, or I should say because I don't own my company myself, has our company's name right next to their name. So it looks like Sway Group is doing this sponsored post, yet Sway Group's still paying all this money and not
Yeah.
getting any of the sponsor fees for it. To me, that's what's really funky about this
Right.
whole thing.
It's not just your name too, it's your authority in the space. They're borrowing your authority. And this is hypothetical in the sense that you don't have employees that are doing this right now.
Not
You're
yet.
putting, well, actually, I'm here to talk to you about something, but you're putting yourself in the place of those. Well, not even, you're just like an industry analyst who's looking at it from that position. It's borrowing authority. That employee likely has no skin in the game, right? They're not at risk when when the invoice comes in or when the software doesn't perform and they've said all these good things. Hadn't even thought about your negotiation power when it comes back time to re-up and they say, well, obviously your team likes it, but also what does that say about your business later when that person touts another or you do switch? Like it all gets very muddy. I had not given as much thought to the intricacies that you're spelling out, sort of the landscape there and how much more thought needs to go into it,
Yeah, yeah.
I think.
It reminded me a little bit of NIL because I know for one of our clients, we work with some University of Michigan, this one University of Michigan athlete in particular is where it came up, and he wanted to wear Michigan clothing in his video that he did. And we had to, first of all, for any athlete to do NIL program, they have to get sign off from the school. And there's all these forms that have to be submitted. But then to wear the Michigan gear, he had to get additional sign off and permission from the school to make that happen. There's a lot of rules in place there because to me, having the company name in your LinkedIn profile is, I mean, not to compare myself to the best university in the
Illustrious
world,
University of Michigan.
but
Go Blue.
it's the equivalent of wearing a Michigan sweatshirt
Yeah.
in a video.
So, and you're tapping into this is something that employers and you and maybe specifically need to put into contracting or not morality clauses, but sort of like what's expected and what's not expected. What can they use the business brand image to in affiliation? Like they're not meaning to, maybe in this case, they don't realize, or maybe they do. Like, why did the software solution provider attract those influencers? It's because of that name under the brand, the organization they
Right,
work with
right.
under their name.
Now, to give
So
another
yeah.
example that I think would be a little bit easier, that I think would work okay in this instance. So I use a Remarkable tablet. This is not a sponsored comment. I use a Remarkable tablet for my notes. I bought that myself with my own money. It's not like the company didn't buy it for me. It's like my tablet that I use for my life. If I, as an employee, get approached by Remarkable to do a sponsored post on LinkedIn, that feels a lot cleaner to me because it could say like, in my job, I love using my Remarkable tablet, blah, blah, blah. This was my own. Remarkable provided it to me, whatever it is. And I use this personally. This is like my
Mhm.
personal thing that I'm using.
Mhm.
I think it gets really fuzzy when it's a product or a service that the company you're working for bought.
Invests in. Yes. And I was going to say also, this is I don't want to call it murky water, but there's a great opportunity for brands to fuel B2B marketing with their employees, with internal advocates. But our stance for a long time has been that requires specific training and specific guidelines. It is not just a cookie cutter, roll it out because of what you're saying. Like, what are
Right.
the boundaries here? What are the ethical responsibilities? What accountability? All of that. It's coming to life in front of us, really, as we're watching the B2B influencer space be born and
Yeah,
develop. So
exactly.
you've pulled up some really good points.
Okay, and I love let's switch over to your primary concern with it, which is a massive
Okay.
concern,
Well,
I think.
I'm going to, what's that?
I think it's a big concern.
So I'm going to do the sandwich compliment, right? Where I'm an innovator. So, and we've been doing B2B influencer marketing for, I don't know what, 5 or 6 years now. So I'm all for it. I've been advocating for it. I'm excited about it. In some ways, a new frontier, and so much from B2C influencer marketing can be pulled into really good B2B marketing. All of my colleagues, and it's hitting my feed right now because we are influencer marketers. So it's kind of naturally starting in the influencer marketing space to some degree. So I love the innovation. I love the bravery of the people who are putting themselves out there as these advocates, as these influencers in our space. So I appreciate that because it will give us all like this starting point to chew on it, to refine it, to come to best practices. But I have so many questions, or not even questions, kind of critiques about like, have we learned nothing from the B2C space? Because it feels like it's very 101. Like there are some obvious pitfalls that could have been avoided. And so I'm wondering things like, who's managing these campaigns for the software solution? Let's use that bucket, the software solution providers who've reached out to the experts in our field or experts in our field. Who's managing that? Is the software internal? Are they doing it internally? And I would say that's probably not the best choice from what I'm seeing, because there's some missteps that, again, you putting this together with your team, me putting this together, we would have some watchouts, like some guidelines around maybe not all the content should go live on the same day at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Like, I'm just saying, because then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm going to get nitty gritty now.
Okay.
So I took screenshots of, and I'm not going to share any of this, but the reason I took screenshots is because the marketers involved were not putting their disclosures until the very last paragraph of an 11 paragraph post,
Yikes.
a 5 paragraph post. One of them, zero mention of it being sponsored, but it was the same cookie cutter language as the other posts. So it was very clear. Kudos to the person who had 4 posts and put the sponsored notification in the second paragraph. Sorry, it had 4 paragraphs. Second paragraph was noted. None of it's above the fold, which I don't know if I'm like, this is the new territory. This is where we're
Yeah, I mean, it's not FTC like that's all a violation of FTC guidelines. And
right.
as
Right.
we know, that doesn't always, sometimes you can skate past and there are certain FTC. I think the placement of the disclosure is one of their lesser concerns. Lack of disclosure would be a higher concern.
Right. And then the other thing that I'm seeing, which is good news, bad news, is all of the influencers so far that I can tell that are part of this are in totality who's commenting on the other one's posts.
Wow.
And we know that that's both good thing and bad thing, right? So when we've done that in the consumer space, we want the influencers who are involved on the team to be supportive and engaging with one another and share momentum, perhaps. And sometimes maybe it's even built into how the campaign is designed. Like one year we did like a haunted house progressive where you went from one blog post to the next blog post around, haunted recipes or something. On the other hand, it's now an echo chamber. You're kind of preaching to the choir, and I can see it. You can see it. You said you have had a busy day, so you haven't been there yet. So I won't implicate you,
Yeah.
but I can see it, and I'm your people. I am who you are talking to, and I am becoming disillusioned and turned off almost immediately because I'm like, here we go. Here's another sponsored post. None of them are very different from one another. Don't get me started too on like the content in the posts themselves. It doesn't seem to be authentic to the person, like what I've known them to, their voice or how they've normally
Well,
approached things.
hearing you say cookie cutter, I mean, gosh, like that's part of why I started Sway Group in the first place. I remember, like, we're talking 2010, 2011. I remember seeing blog posts where it was very clear that bloggers were copying and pasting from a press release into their blog post and thinking, this is not how this should be done. This is not going to move the needle. There has to be room for creativity. We can't have every single post be the same. It should not be written by, a junior AE who graduated last year.
Yeah.
Like, there's a number of issues there, and to think we've come all this way and it's been no, we're now 14 years later, and finally B2B influencer marketing seems poised to have its moment, and we're gonna make these dumb mistakes?
Right. It's so funny that you say the press release thing because honestly, the event that's being covered to me is press release material. That should have been sent out to the industry for all of us to be talking about because it's an event. It's not a capability. It's not a service that I can understand. Like they're talking about an event and that's cool. Nobody that was covering it was at the event.
Oh, wow.
Nobody saw it organically walking down the street or could report on it. They're just reporting secondhand. So it does come across very much like we all got the press release. We're being paid to become outlets. There's just better ways to do it, I think.
Yeah.
And to your point, we don't have to spend the next 14, 15 years getting there. I think we need some guidelines or some expertise in the room from the logistics and strategy side, not even the influencer curation and discovery side, but what are
Right.
some best practices that have been completely overlooked because I think that the business itself, the brand itself ran this and just isn't aware of best practices of influencer marketing.
I'm just what do you think that part of the problem is that the discovery is pretty difficult here? Like, that discovery tools and searching is not as easy on LinkedIn as it is for a TikTok or an Instagram, and so there really is that specialization of being able to find the right people and to connect with them. It is harder to get. I think it is hard. We charge more for B2B programs simply because it is harder to secure these people and they charge more. So that whole discovery piece of finding and connecting and contracting with the right influencers is so much harder than most B2C, not all B2C. What I feel like I'm seeing happening is that there are these agencies popping up who are saying that all they do is LinkedIn influencer marketing. And so they're kind of like starting this from scratch without all of the knowledge from the beginning.
Hmm.
Whereas if I could do discovery for a LinkedIn program using my existing tools that we've been using for years for all the other platforms, if we could easily find those people and connect with them, we could just add it on. We could like be more outright about the fact that we could do it. I don't go out there and sell this actively. If someone comes to me, I will talk to them about whether or not this is a fit for us. We're not out there like actively selling LinkedIn B2B programs just because they're very they're not our sweet spot. So it's harder for us to fold into what we do. I don't know how clear I'm being. I just feel like because it's so specialized, we're seeing specialized in doing air quotes, specialized agencies pop up who don't have all the background that we do.
Right. Who come from the tech side.
Right.
Right. And I think a couple of things here. I think you're actually onto something in the sense that we've been led to believe over the last 18 months that B2B influencer equals LinkedIn. I will push back against that. I think B2B can happen and is happening, and we've done it everywhere. And LinkedIn has been the thing that we've said to clients, don't sleep on LinkedIn. Like, let's include that. They're actually not thinking about LinkedIn for B, which is super interesting. I think the second thing is we all have bought into that influencer marketing for consumers is easier because it's easier to search Instagram, TikTok, whatnot. But I think if we play that out, the reason we think it's easier is because we're only looking at it to be an impression, reach, engagement play, like just a numbers play. Whereas we're demanding different things, we think, from B2B because your B2B audience is naturally smaller, right? It's a buyer committee inside of an organization. Like it's not the masses, or even like moms with kids 9 to 15 years old. So I think we're telling ourselves some things that may or may not turn out to be true about B2B influencer marketing, but for sure. So I don't know that the B2B influencer marketing needs to do as much heavy lifting because it is a smaller subset. So those are a couple of top line thoughts is I think it can happen anywhere and should be happening and is
Agreed.
happening everywhere. And yes, it's a lot of tech heavy people investing in building from scratch and not honoring what we've built to date around influencer marketing. And so there's going to be some hiccups maybe and some false starts that aren't necessary. And I don't know about you, but I've had conversations with those people and I have expressed, you're going to run into some problems here, here, and here.
Yeah.
And they're like, see you later. Like they don't want to continue having those
Let me
conversations.
find someone who will just agree with my plan.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's fine. And that's why I say I'm really grateful that they're innovating, they're brave enough to get out there because that starts us down that path of refining it and making it a really, really impactful marketing tactic. And right now, there's just growing pains that you and I are seeing. So
Okay. Well, we'll keep our
yeah,
eye on it and we'll keep sending each other screenshots of the really shitty
the things that
that
enrage
comes our
us,
way. Yeah.
the things that Danielle and I get worked up over and share is so funny. It's just so specific. Like we are so specifically
Yeah.
triggered in our industries. I love it.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're special. Okay. Well, so next week we will record our last episode of the calendar year. So stay tuned for that one. And then we will all be back in 2025. So see you next week.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks, Danielle. Take care.
Bye.